Hello, and welcome to Art with Miss Michelle. Today we're going to draw an animal. So for this project, you'll need a picture of the animal you want to draw. It can be any animal, a mammal, a reptile, a bird, fish, whatever you feel like drawing. Some colored pencils, and if you have a pencil sharpener handy, it wouldn't be a bad thing to keep around because you might want a really sharp pencil for some of your fine details, and then just some paper or a sketchbook. Okay, so before I start drawing, I'm gonna just take a look at my animal, see what kind of details I notice, what kind of shapes, and especially what kind of textures I see. So does my animal have fur, feathers, scales? What direction is the fur going? So if I take a look at this deer, I notice like the legs aren't really straight. They're thicker on top, and then they kind of get thinner as they go down. I notice like the joints where it has muscles. I can see these rounded shapes. Its belly is rounded, and it also has rounded shapes going up into its body. So like where the legs connect, where the neck comes down. So those are all details that are going to help me when I draw this. For the feathers, these are actually a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit easier to draw because they're really defined. You can see the lines of the feathers, what direction they go. They kind of go from where the wing meets the body and then kind of evenly space out along the wing here. The feathers on the head have this nice rounded overlapping shape to them. So I'm also going to kind of plan out, I want to take up most of my paper, but I also want to make sure I leave room like at the top for the antlers, and you know, I don't want it to be quite touching the edges, but I don't want it to be like a tiny deer in the middle. I want to try to take up a good majority of my page here. So I'm going to find a color that is going to be able to blend in with my animal to just outline it with. I'm not going to use a regular pencil because I just want to be able to kind of blend it so I don't see the outline. And I'm just going to start with the head. The head is kind of an easy place to start. So I left some room for my antlers, and I'm just gonna try to follow the shape of the head, and I can add like where I see the eyes. And then as I draw this, since I'm using a color that I'm going to blend in, see, I made a line here that I didn't like. So instead of erasing it, I just drew another line next to it. So I don't have to spend a lot of my time erasing if I want to change something. Okay, so I'm just paying attention to distinguishing features like the eyes, nose, mouth, and then once I have the head done, I think that's kind of the hardest part, so the rest of it should go a little bit easier. So I noticed this deer has a really thick neck that's actually pretty long, so I'm going to try to follow these curves here, and if I need to draw some extra lines, I can always like make the whole shape of the neck. It looks kind of funny right now, but once I shade that in, I won't see it very much. I'm also not pressing down very hard, so I can shade over that if I need to. And then I see this big muscle here for the shoulder, so I'm going to go ahead and include that. And then it gets really thin, and I didn't leave myself quite enough room at the bottom, but that's okay. I'll just put some grass over it. And this is just me trying to get a little bit better at drawing the animals, so if I don't quite have enough room for the foot, that's okay. Okay, and then I notice I have the neck going down pretty far here, and then the back starts about halfway down the neck, and my back is pretty long, so I might not draw that whole thing right now. I might add this rounded belly here. So I'm going to line it up with the chest. What I'm going to do is put my pencil right there, lift it up, and move it as if I'm drawing a line, and put it back down over here. And then I'll draw that rounded shape for the belly. And then I'm going to add this back leg here. And then that's going to kind of help me decide where my back is going to end. So I can just connect up right there. And then if I need to change my line a little bit, I can. And then my other leg is kind of behind his body. So I'm just going to see part of that. So usually I like to work my way from back to front, but this time I'm going to do the opposite and work my way from front to back. It's just a little bit different since I'm drawing an animal instead of a landscape. Although if I wanted to add the background, I might do that so my deer is overlapping the grass. But right now I'm just going to focus on the deer. I can add a little tail back there. And then of course the ears. Now this ear is kind of in a weird position behind the antler. So I can either try to draw it like that, or if I want to use my artistic license, I can just copy the other ear and make it kind of the same shape. It might be in a slightly different position. And then I can do the antlers. And I notice they are thick at the bottom and then they get a little bit thinner as they go up. And then they get thin at the top and make a point. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the way this looks. I might add some eyelids here. And then I can start coloring this in. So I want to try to look at the fur and see what direction it's pointing or growing. And then I can start making my lines in that direction, and that is going to make it look really realistic. Now, another thing I'm going to do is I'm not just going to use one color to color this in. I'm going to kind of layer my colors. So if I want to start with kind of a neutral base color that could blend with the other colors I'm going to use, I could do like a little base color. And I'm just going to try to get a thin layer of color down. And then I'm going to go back with some darker colors and add some more texture to this. Okay, so I've colored most of this in, with the exception of some really light places. And even though this is my undercoat, I tried to make my lines go in the direction that the fur is growing, because that is going to really add some realistic texture. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some different browns, and I would either start with my lightest place or darkest place, it's up to you, and start just, I want to make some quick lines. If I color back and forth like this, it's not going to give it that realistic look. If I just try to do really short pencil strokes, it's going to give a really good illusion of fur, and it's going to give a really realistic texture. And this does take some time, but if you're interested in drawing realistic looking animals, it's definitely worth the effort. It's going to make your pictures look so much more realistic. So I'm just going to look for some really dark places and start adding those dark spots and shadows. And if I push a little bit harder, I can make it even darker if I want it more kind of like a medium dark, then I can just use medium pressure. And then I'm paying attention to the direction my fur is growing, but I can also use the direction of my lines to show like more rounded shapes. So if I kind of round it a little bit for the belly and the back, then I can give it more of a rounded look so it doesn't look like just a flat outline of an animal. Okay, and then once I feel like I have my darkest spots colored in, I'm gonna look for a medium color and just kind of go over the whole thing, except for, of course, my really light places I won't do, but I'm gonna even go over the dark places I already did, and my pretty light places, and just keep doing those kind of fast fur lines and hopefully get a realistic looking texture on there. Okay, so now I'm going to find a really light color and do the really lightest places. And it helps if I have a very sharp pencil for the fur. You can also use this technique if you're drawing hair. So if you have a base color and then do the hair lines over it, you don't have to worry about completely filling in every space, but you'll still have the color over the whole thing. And then one thing I didn't mention is that I always want to start like where the hair would be coming out of the animal and then end my line at the base of the hair. So then it will give the illusion of that little thin end. So I'm just gonna look for light parts, add some highlights with my light color. This is also gonna kind of help blend my colors together. And the more layers you want to add of different colors of fur, the more realistic it will look. So hopefully you can try your hardest on this and try to learn how to do the layering technique. This does take some time, but the finished product is going to be worth it, I promise, if you spend some time on it. I think you'll be impressed with what you can draw. And then after I have my body filled in, I can just do the same thing on the head. And I can maybe start with my eyes. So I'm gonna do them black, but they're not gonna be like solid black. Usually there's like a little glimmer of light. So like a little white or light spot on the eye. And then I can use my little bit lighter pressure to make it darker in some places and lighter in others. And if I kind of draw with the shape of the eye, I can make it look a little bit more round. This I don't think looks too realistic, but it kind of helps if you color your lines with the shape of what you're drawing. So I'm just gonna keep working on this. Whoops. Thanks for watching my video. Also, after I'm finished with this, I can work on the background, and you can decide if you maybe have a picture of your animal and its environment, or you can see what kind of animal you're drawing and what kind of environment that animal would live in, and decide what kind of background you should make. So I hope you like this project, and happy animal drawing.